there, thanks for stopping by my channel to color. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Today we're going to be coloring this adorable new My Favorite Things Tweet Friends stamp. This is a card kit, so I'll put a link to the card kit and all the supplies I used down in the description box. I really appreciate you shopping with me. When you get the card kit this time, you're also going to get the coordinating die that goes with the stamp set, just so you know. So anyway, I went ahead and stamped my image on some Neenah 80-pound solar white cardstock, so let's color. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our mushroom first. I'm going to go ahead and lay down a small coat of E53 where I want it to be shadow. So I'm going to go along the side of the mushroom that has a little bump out thing there. And then I'm going to do a little swatch of color around the base of my mushroom. Quick and easy. These images are quick and easy. Then we're going to go ahead and grab E50. And we're going to go ahead and fill in the rest of the bottom of our mushroom. So I'm just going to swipe over the edges of my E53, fill in the bottom there, quick swipe over the base of my mushroom to fill it the rest of the way in. And then we're going to go ahead and go over it again with our E53 just to darken those shadows up and cause a little bit more contrast there so we can see it a little bit more. I know it's a pretty small mushroom, so you're not going to take too much time on it, but I'm just going to add a little bit on there just to give it some shadows. Then if I was thinking about it when I had the E50 out, I would have went ahead and done the little dots at the top of the mushroom, but of course I wasn't, so I'm going to go ahead and do those now. Just going to give them a quick coat of the E50 on there to cover them all the way in. You can also do them like halfway so they have a little bit of shadows on there, but I wasn't thinking of that since they're so small. Now we're going to do the top of the mushroom. For that we're going to use R24 first. I'm going to go ahead and do right down towards the bottom of the mushroom where all of the little brown parts are, up to the very first of the little dots. So I'm going to go underneath the dots. And I'm trying to be careful, even though we're going to cut them out, there's going to be a little white edge on the edges. So I'm trying to be careful and keep my red inside the lines. Next, we're going to go ahead and grab R22. For R22, we're going to go ahead and go over the edge of our R24, just a little bit. Just pulling up a little bit, going over the top of those little dots that we started with. Adding a little bit more color, and you'll see there's still a line there, but that's okay because I'm going to come back and I'm going to give it a second coat. So I'm going to now go over the top part there with my R21. I'm just filling the rest of the way in, and you can see there's quite a bit of lines there left over. So I'm going to give it my second coat with R24. And again, I'm being careful to stay within my lines because R24 is pretty dark, so you're not going to be able to erase that very much if you do get it outside of the lines. But there I went over the top of the line that was already there, so I've pulled it past just a little bit. And then I'm going to grab my R22. I'm going to go over the edges of my R24. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit past my R22 where I laid it the first time. So I'm brushing over that line just second time, just brushing it a couple of times to soften it up. And then I take my R21 and I'm going to go over the entire top of my mushroom. I'm filling in that little section and then I'm swiping from the bottom all the way up to the top, and this helps me to soften those lines right there in the middle part. Okay, we're going to use those same reds to do our flowers. We're not going to do anything fancy for these flowers. I'm just going to go ahead and give them a quick swipe in the middle of each petal with my R24. Nothing too fancy. I'm going to go ahead and do both flowers at the same time. You could stamp a bunch of these out and color them all at once and then go ahead and cut them all out together. Next, we're going to go ahead and add our R22. So again, we're just going to go over the top of our R24 and I'm going to pull up a little bit into the middle of my flowers. Again, I'm trying to be a little bit careful to not go outside the lines. They're not huge flowers, so you're going to be try to be a little bit careful so you don't get out of the lines. But if you do, you know, it's no big deal. R22, you could use your colorless blender to erase it and it wouldn't be any problem. We're just going to fill it in with our R21. Quick and easy. But I love these little birds. They're so cute, and there's a bunch of little accessory stamps that you could stamp out to use to decorate your cards. Like the little mushroom, there's one that's a little bit bigger, so you could use that to put on your card also. Then if you want to, you could leave them just like this, but I'm going to go ahead like we did with the mushroom and give it a second coat. So I'm just going to quickly add that little middle section there in my flower with the R24. Kind of darken it up. I think it looks really pretty like this too, even if you just went back over it with a little bit of the R24 and then just didn't do the rest of the colors. I think that would look really cool. But I'm going to go ahead and grab R22 and I'm going to brush over the edges, flick right over the top there and give it a little bit more color, and see how nicely it's blending those little lines away there in the center of my flower. It's looking pretty good. Then I'm going to go ahead and swipe over the entire petals with my R21 just to soften everything up. You can also go along on your flower. You could leave the very edges of your flower white. I think that would look really cool. I think I might try that next time. That'd give it a lot of contrast on the edges of your flower and make it really pop. But I'm making sure when I do my R21 that I swipe over the entire petal, and that helps to soften the lines I have there in the middle of my flowers. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the stems of our flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and color them all the way in with G20. This is my lightest color. I'm doing it backwards this time just because they're so small, you're not going to need much coloring here. So a quick swipe of my G20, filling them all the way in. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab G24. And I'm going to put some shadows on the half of the flower that kind of dip down where the petal looks like it's drooping there. I'm going to do the top underneath the flower, half of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and color the stem all the way in. It's pretty small. I was going to try to do half the stem, but that didn't work out. So I went ahead and just colored it all the way in. And then I'm going to give the leaf a little swipe of color in the middle there, just to give it some darkness. And we're going to do the same thing with this flower. So I'm going to pick the side that has the little petal that's drooping downwards. We're going to color the stem in, and then I'm going to do half of the flower at the top of the flower there towards the petal that's drooping. Then we're going to give it a little swipe of color over our leaf. You could totally go ahead and leave it like this, but I'm going to take my G20 and I'm going to swipe over that leaf just a little bit to soften the edges of that G24. This is totally an option. If you love how it looks the other way, just leave it the way it is. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to our bird. So for our bird, we're going to use B01. I'm fiddling with the paper here, trying to decide where it's best to put that silly cap because I want you to be able to see it. And then I decided, well, we'll just put it right up here. So we're going to do a couple little swipes over here on the side of his head in that little V where it dips down towards his beak, and then the other side of his head. And then we're going to go ahead, since he's so small, we're going to go ahead and add it down here at the bottom too. So I'm going to do on his body down there underneath of his face. And then we're going to go along the edge of his body that's kind of poking out and the bottom of each of his wings. We're just adding a little small stripe of color down there. And then don't forget to do underneath of his wing there, he's got a little bit of that little body showing. And then I'm going to do a quick swipe of color in the middle of my tail feathers. He is just so adorable. It looks like he is singing to his heart's content there. He's just really belting one out. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So I'm filling in this little section above his wing there. And then we're going to come down and we're going to do the bottoms of his feathers for his wings. Just a quick little swipe, and then underneath of his feather, don't forget that little section that's by his belly. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add B00. For my B00, I want to make sure to go over the edges of B01, so I'm starting kind of a little bit in. I'm flicking over the top of that little U shape on the top of his head, all the way to the other side. We're just going to flick it right up there and kind of soften it up. I'm not really being really neat and tidy because he's not so big that you're going to see any big differences. But I am trying to make sure to keep it in the lines. And he is pretty small, so you're not going to have to worry. I'm not worried about lines or anything like that because these bees are pretty light and they're not really going to cause too many harsh lines when you color them. Next, we're going to fill all that blue in with B000. So I'm just swiping over the top of the entire color, filling that in. And I'm going to go ahead, after I get it all filled in, I'm going to give it a second coat. So I'm not worried that it's looking a little patchy. It's looking like it's looking a little liney there on the bottom of his wings, but that's okay because we're going to go ahead and add B01 for a second coat. Kind of darken him up. You could also go, I guess, if you wanted to, you could go with B04 and use that as your darkest color, and then go. He'd be really blue then. I thought he would be a little too blue for me, but you could do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do my B01, just going back over those little spots that I already drew it on, kind of thickening them up just a little bit. Down here on the wings, I'm taking up a little bit more space. Filling in there above his body. Another quick swipe on this wing. So I'm not really being really careful. I'm just swiping it on there. Next, I'm going to grab B00. And again, I'm just going to use this to soften the edges of my B01. So I'm going to swipe right over the top of that little arch for his head. And I am pulling it up a little bit past where I laid it down the first time. Nothing fancy, but I'm just kind of swiping over there, filling it in a little bit more. Wipe down here on his wing. See, I've left just on that wing, I've left just a little tiny dab there at the top of his wing that we're going to color in with our B000. So B000, we're going to go ahead and fill the rest of this blue in. I'm just going to swipe over it and fill it the rest of the way. You can also leave up there on the top of his head, you could leave a little bit of white space. Same for these wings. You could leave that little space there on his wing white, and I think that would look really cool. I think I might try that in the next one. And that's it for blue. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do his body. We're not going to do anything fancy for his body. I'm just going to use my E50 to cause a little bit of shadows. So I'm going to swipe away from his wing and into the center of his belly, around the bottom, same for this side. Then I'm going to do a little bit up here where his hands are touching or his wings are touching, and then I left it white there in the middle of his belly. Then we're going to do the same thing above his wing there, where it's under his chin. I'm going to go a little bit on each side under his chin, and then I left a little dab of white above his wing where those little lines are. Then we're going to kind of outline the top of his head, so I'm just going to swipe a little stream of color over that little arch he has going on there. Same for this side. We're going to swipe a little bit of color, and you can decide how thick you wanted that line to be. I tried to keep it kind of thin. And then when I do the bottom of his face, I'm going to lay my pen down and flick it away from me. And for me, that causes it to be a little bit thinner at the top of my swipe. I don't know how it works for you, but for me, when I'm doing the little flicking, that works best. So it gets a little bit thinner at the top and kind of fades into my white. And then I'm just going to leave the rest of his face white. We're not going to color that in, but I'm going to give him some rosy cheeks. So R30, I'm just going to do a couple little circles on the outside of his eyes there. Couple little dabs, and you can make these as big as you wanted. And then I decided maybe I would make them a little bit darker, so I'm going to go in and I'm just going to dot my pen up and down a little bit in the middle of each circle a couple of times just to darken it up there. No, nothing fancy, but it does make it a little bit darker. You can't see it very good on the screen, but it did give it a little bit more color. Then we're going to go ahead and color the inside of his mouth and his tongue. Nothing fancy, just colored in. And then I'm going to take R21 and I'm going to color just the back of his tongue. So I'm just going to give it a quick swipe of color and then leave a little triangle of that light pink in the front. So it gives a little bit of color in there, not too much. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab Y18 and we're going to color his beak. It's really small, so you're going to want to make sure that you just barely use the tip of your pen and glide it over those little lines, and otherwise you're going to be going outside of the line. But nothing fancy, just go right around the outside and you've colored all of your images. So I went ahead and used the coordinating die that you're going to get in your card kit to cut them all out. And I cheated and I went ahead and put some foam tape on the back of my things that I'm going to be popping up so that I wouldn't have to do that later and you won't have to sit here and watch that. So I noticed when I was putting it together that a few of these letters, they have like little fuzzy things on the outside of each one. So you might want to go ahead and run your finger over the outside of each one, or some kind of a piece of cardstock or something just to remove some of those, because I don't know about you, but after I put it on the card, it seems like those little fuzzy things are always poking out and it just drives me crazy. So I'm checking here to see which way my card is opening so I make sure everything gets put on the proper way. We're going to put some tape runner on the back of our piece of peanut cardstock. I love this tape runner. It's one of my favorite ones. I can buy the refills at the office supply store in a big bundle so I don't have to worry about it. And then we're going to line that up on our card base, trying to get it straight without putting my head in the middle of the screen. It's kind of hard sometimes. And then we're going to go ahead and put some tape runner on the back of this piece of chiffon cardstock. And there I'm brushing some of my extra stuff off there. You could also do, before you put it down, you could stamp some of your images or some of your accessory stamps on this piece just to decorate it a little bit and give it some designs on it if you wanted. Then we're going to go ahead and center this one there on my peanut cluster cardstock. And again, I'm trying to be keep my head out of the screen, so I'm trying to make sure it gets straight. And then we're going to attach some of these octagon shapes. I do have one more of these little octagon dies left that I'll go ahead and put in the store at a huge discount if you'd like to pick that up. I only have one left, so I need to get rid of it so it's not sitting on the shelf. I'm just going to kind of put those up there cattywampus. And I made sure also these had a few of those little fuzzes on the outside that I just wiped the edges real quick so that they don't have a bunch of fuzzy things sticking off. I'm going to make that one so it kind of hangs off the edge of my card there a little bit. Next, we're going to have our sentiments piece. I already popped that up, so we're going to peel those off, and I went ahead and stamped my sentiment. The sentiment comes with U on it, and when I stamped that, I just put a piece of masking tape over the U part, inked it up with my ink pad, and then I removed the masking tape and stamped it onto my cardstock. I also stamped my little musical notes up there on the top there. You could also have some musical notes coming off of your cardstock up there into the little hexagons or onto the little yellow piece. I think that would look cute. I'm going to put some glue on to the back of my little mushroom. This little mushroom's the smallest one in the set. There's a bigger one. So you could go ahead and stamp the bigger one too and layer them there at the bottom of your card. I think that would look really cute. And then I'm going to set my Y up there so I know where to put one of my flowers, because I want to put it on the white piece first. So you could go ahead and do a couple of flowers up there. You could do some leaves that come in there. There's a couple of cute little leaf stamps that you could stamp out and color those too. I think those will look really cool, all layered up and put on the back of your card also. But I'm just going to kind of tuck it down underneath this Y and then adhere it to my cardstock so it's sitting there. And then I'm trying to see, let's see. So you could stamp these couple more flowers and you could put it so it's kind of sticking off the edge of that Y. But we're going to save that one for another piece, but you could stamp it and decorate it up a little bit. And there's where I cheated. I put my little pieces, and I get my foam tape in a roll. So I went ahead and just cut a piece off and then cut some strips so that I could make them fit on the back of this Y, because it's kind of skinny, so you're going to need a small piece. Go ahead and put the rest of my letters on here. Trying to be careful to get those lined up so one's not like 2 feet above the other one. Hopefully it looks straight without putting my head in the middle of the screen. This U on there, and I tried to make sure to squish them over towards the left, towards the mushroom side, because I want to have room to put my bird over there on the other side. We're going to give this little flower a little dab of glue on the back, and we're going to adhere that on top of the O. Again, you could stamp some of the little leaves and layer them up there so they're all decorated with this flower also. We're just going to kind of let that droop off the side. Give it a quick hold down with my finger so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the foam dots off the back of my little bird. And I left one side blank. I didn't put the foam tape there because it's going to go over the top of my U, and I didn't want it to have to bump up against there. But see how I'm kind of making sure he had enough room on there to hang off the side of my card. Then you could go in and you could add some sparkles to his fur if you wanted to, or you could do some other things in there. So here I'm showing you how you have some leaves, so you could go ahead and stamp those leaves up. And there's a couple of quote marks on there too, so you could put the quote marks down there on your stamp. But there's that bigger mushroom that you could layer behind this mushroom to give it a little bit more decoration. And they all come with the coordinating die. And then you got your little musical notes there that I stamped on my piece because I didn't want to have to do it during the video. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the other card where I stamped it off there on the octagon, so you could see how you could stamp them up there where they're coming off of the top of your card. I think that would look really cute. So that is it for our coloring today. I hope you had fun. If you'd like to see more close-up video or pictures or some more details on the card, head over to the store blog, and I'll put a link down in the description box. If you have a question, leave me a comment down below and I'll make sure to get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It really helps my channel. Right about now, you should be seeing a screen that will have a couple more videos I thought you might be interested in. If you're interested in either of those, just click on one and it will take you straight to the video. Otherwise, I hope you're having a fabulous day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.